Now, Jacob Ham, he's a clinical psychologist. He's the program director for Beth Israel St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital Hearts program, which serves traumatized children and families. This is a traumatic time for the entire country, certainly for Boston. What's your recommendation for people on how to deal with the fear and the anxiety of this moment?
You know, I really think that understanding how the body reacts in situations like this is really important, and it's completely natural and self-protective for us all to be afraid. In a way, I feel like we're on an episode of Meerkats. We're all standing up and hyper-vigilant and watching this very carefully because our lives are at risk. Our whole country is at risk. And it's an appropriate response to this situation, and eventually it'll pass. So in a couple of weeks, our fear will diminish, we'll return to our lives as usual, and we'll be safe again. And our country is doing everything it can to keep us safe, and we'll be fine.
We asked the pastor just a moment ago, how do you talk to children about this? It seems to me, I am a mother. My daughter is a little bit young to even understand news, but at what age is it appropriate to begin to sort of tell the details, allow the children to watch what's on the news, and then how do you help them understand how bad things can happen to good people?
I think that the best way a parent can talk to a kid is to talk with their ears, to always listen first, and to really track what their child's needs are and why they're asking certain questions. And ultimately, the most important thing that children care about is, am I safe? Can you keep me safe? And so a lot of these questions are rooted in this need to feel like they're safe again and that their lives are going to come back to normal. So listen with that ear. You don't have to answer every detail. It's more, if you listen on a higher level, these questions are really about just, is this going to happen to me or to us? And so just keep reassuring them that things are going to be okay. And redirect questions back to, tomorrow you're going to go back to school. Tomorrow, what are you going to do tomorrow in school? Like, get them back to thinking about the routines in their lives, the people they care about, and the fact that this is just one moment in time. There are going to be a million moments after this where nothing bad is going to happen, and they're going to have fun again. They're going to go play baseball and be with their friends and enjoy family members.
Talk about the range of emotions that are typical for something like this, not only for the first responders and the people within the immediate community of Boston, but just for all of us who are watching this as well.
The way I look at it is that our bodies have a specific response first, which is that we're all a little bit afraid. We're all on high alert, and when we're feeling that way, it's more about vigilance about what's going to happen next. And that's the very first moments, and then we have a bigger part of our brain, the cortex, which tries to make meaning of what's going on. And that's where things can slip and slide into, what does this mean about our lives, our country? Are we always in danger from now on? I knew that the world was an evil place, and that I might as well just hate myself and the world around me. So it really just depends on what our predispositions are and the kind of default way that we think, and that's why I think that having a pastor on is a great idea, because it helps soothe the meaning-making part of our brain. And we really have to just, we have to realize that we're going to respond in the ways that we're predisposed to respond. And so the more self-awareness you have about if you feel like you don't have a sense of control in your life, this is going to make you feel even less in control of your life. And so you have to kind of be gentle with yourself and aware of what you're going to feel and try to be soothing to yourself.
Psychologist Jacob Ham, and we've learned all this information about this young man. By all accounts, he is reported to be a good guy. He was a good student, but as our FBI expert here, Jack Clunan, says, he certainly has deadly motives, if not suicidal intentions in this. Can you sort of describe this young man's psyche and how he could become so radicalized at such a young age? He's only 19.
Well, actually, my guess is that young men are the most likely to be able to be radicalized. Adolescents and young men especially, their brains aren't fully mature until their mid-20s. There's research that shows that the prefrontal cortex, which is the seat of executive function, decision-making, empathy, that doesn't fully mature until early to mid-20s. That's why we are so worried about our teenagers. They run and do reckless things and drive recklessly and make stupid and rash decisions all the time. What I really want to focus on here is that I think that the whole nature of feeling threatened is really at the heart of what's going on. We're all feeling threatened, and what I hear about these families is that they've always felt threatened, ostracized, attacked as well in some form or fashion. And that when we all live in this realm of always feeling like we're in danger, our bodies need to find out who is causing all this harm to us and all this danger. And that's when we're at risk of what I call othering, finding an enemy, someone out there who's doing, if we could just get rid of that person, then we would be safe. And I think that that's what is at the seed of hatred and oppression and the racism that's inflicted our world. And it's our job to not let this event then make us other another person. And to make us want to pathologize Chechen people or to think that more Muslims are all monsters. It's our job to regulate our sense of terror and to realize that, to remain connected and to realize that we're a community of human beings trying to figure out a way to survive and live together in this world.
Wow, yeah, and that's a tall order to do. Jacob, I just want to ask you, what difference will it make to the nation's psychology if this suspect is apprehended alive and tried and brought to justice, as opposed to being killed or committing suicide in the course of the apprehension?
The biggest difference, I think, is going to be what we've been talking about our need to make sense of this incredible tragedy. If the suspect is apprehended alive, then we're going to be mesmerized by the story and really try to understand who this man is, to be able to put him into our paradigm of the way that the world works. And how do we know who the next young man is going to be that's going to do this? We're going to keep trying to find out how to keep ourselves safe. If he's not alive, then we run the risk of letting our speculations and our default prejudices and stereotypes become more reified, more rigid. And what I find really fascinating about this young man are some of the facts that I think of clinically is that he was in touch with his father and said, the plan's good. And he's the younger brother of, and it was with his older brother that he was out. And his older brother was already killed. So his older brother may have a protective role like most older brothers do with their younger brothers. And then also that he had friends and he was a jokester, so he's not a recluse. He's got some social skills and maybe some emotional maturity to be able to tell jokes and get along with people. It makes it a really complicated situation, but it makes me think that this is a young man who's going to feel terrified in this situation, and that when people feel terrified, they go to default autopilot modes of thinking. This is why soldiers practice and practice and practice so they don't have to think big picture anymore. They can just be on autopilot and do what they were trained to do. And in a way, my guess is that he's going to be just on autopilot. He's going to need a coach, just like any young man needs a coach, even on a football field. You can't call all the plays yourself. You need a coach to be able to tell you what to do. And you also need to feel protected. You need to feel like there's a coach that has your back and is going to keep looking out for you, especially for a younger brother with a father who loves and cares for him.
It's going to be so interesting to find out more about him if we apprehend him alive. Very quickly, Christina, go ahead.
Given what you've just said, when it comes to law enforcement and trying to keep this from turning into a shootout to potential suicide, what then does the tactic need to be to entice him, to make him feel comfortable?
Mm-hmm. I think that there's going to be a conflict inside of himself. There's the self-preservation conflict. He's going to want to surrender so he doesn't get killed. But then there's the other end, which is I need to do this for my family, for what I believe in, for protecting everyone who's been harmed in some way by the evil American person. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how much he's been indoctrinated into that principle, or whether or not his own self-preservation and maybe the plea from his father is going to actually help him to realize that there could be a way to shift out of this autopilot state that he's been in.
Yeah. Jacob Hale, thank you so much. I appreciate your expertise and insight.